Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Monday, August 11th, 2025. That is a whole lot of Torah, 5.5 years worth of every weekday morning finding each other. Hi, Amy. Hi, Rabbi Wasser. Arlene, Susie, good to see you. Hi, Linda. It's good to see all of you, friends. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. We are living in exceedingly complicated times, which only make the constancy of being together so much more precious. Lydia, good to see you. Hi, Emily. Fabrice, welcome. Lisa and Jonathan, Tara and Dale, Ashley, Boker Tov, Jonathan and Jacqueline, Arlene and Barry, Barbara, good morning, friends. It's good to see all of you. Carl, Boker Tov. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Cecile. Good morning, good morning. All right, let's take a breath. We're going to sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Arlene, your Maya is in your house. That's so sweet. Hi, Maya. Hope that you're having a nice morning. Jerry and Jack, Boker Tov, Penny, thank you for the reminder. It is broadcast 1364. Let's take a breath, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Hope that you and yours are safe and well. It is broadcast 1364. It is day 675 since October 7th. This is how we locate ourselves in time. That's what it is to be a people. And to be grounded in Torah is also to be grounded in this world. We are a complicated and hurting people. And it is a complicated and hurting time everywhere around the planet, actually. So, what I want to do is speak directly to a dynamic that's in the air right now. UJA Federation of New York, since October 7th, has allocated $200 million to efforts in the state of Israel to rebuild and to help hostage families and to help so many affected with trauma, to help rebuild communities in the south, to help relocate and rebuild communities in the north, to work with the shared society of Israeli Arab and Druze and Israeli Jews. This is an important time for us to pause, acknowledge the depth and breadth of the work that UJA can uniquely do in this moment, representing the Jewish people based in New York, but understanding what it is to be a family with roots all over. Just this last week, UJA made an allocation of $1 million to Israel, which is a humanitarian organization in Israel, to support clean water and medicine and food to be delivered to those hungry in Gaza. And the reaction, as you might imagine, was overwhelming. There were some who said, of course, this is what we must do because we take care of the hungry no matter where they are, no matter who they are. That's what we do for New Yorkers of all kinds and Jews all across the world. We don't ask someone when they come to our digital food pantries in Queens or in Brooklyn or to the other food pantries that we support through Met Council and throughout New York, what is your religion before we feed them, nor do we ask a Jew what their politics are before we say your family. This is what it is to show up, knowing who we are and what our mission is in the world. Making an allocation that goes to those who are hungry and suffering in Gaza is a trigger for some who forget the larger picture of our commitment and the mission that is so thoroughly based in and for our people, that to reach out to anyone else, especially given the hurt that Hamas has caused our family, our people, is understandable. Reactivity is understandable. But what is important to establish, not in reaction, but in response, is that our commitments haven't changed. This is who we are. Our work as a Jewish community, the largest local philanthropy in the world, is meant to be a manifestation of our values and our commitments. Zionism is a profound commitment of ours. Nothing will ever change that. This $1 million allocation is an important statement that humanity matters. We are called to be part of fixing the world. And that doesn't override our commitment to our family, nor does it create a kind of naivete where we would, God forbid, ignore the vulnerability of the Jewish community, the Jewish state. We are active in ways that would defy anyone's imagination. And I'm involved very directly, and I'm amazed and shocked all the time at the depth and breadth of our work. And so if you see someone reacting, here's what I would ask you to do. And I've been laboring to do this too, even though social media is not a place for real engagement and real conversations. Really, it's a way of amplifying the echo chamber that the algorithm makes sure we experience exclusively. But if you see someone who's responding with heat and anger, I would suggest you simply say, I understand that pain. I share that pain. This work is big and eternal, and all I wish for you is love. That's the only kind of response that will help someone calm down enough to hear the bigger picture. Now, I want to make a pivot between that dynamic, which is very much in the air, and this Parsha, because Parshat Ekev, as part of the flow of the book of Deuteronomy, of Devarim, is anything but simple. This is a really complicated Parsha. Moshe is feeling so urgent about our ability to remember and hear because he's watched us. We don't remember and we don't listen. But there will come a time, because of the promise that God made our ancestors and the work Moshe has done and the work Joshua will do, there will come a time that we enter this promised land, and it is anything but simple once we do. There's a famous verse in this week's Parsha that we recite whenever we say Birkat HaMazon, the blessings after we eat a meal. The verse is chapter 8, verse 10 in the book of Deuteronomy. The Hebrew is Ve'achalta v'savata uve'irachta et Adonai Elohecha al haaretz hatova asher natan lach. When you have eaten and been satiated and blessed God your God, you should bless God your God for the good land that God has given you. When you have done this, listen to how the verses continue, because that's the verse we quote, but it has a context. The verses continue. Be careful, I'm just using a translation here from the JPS translation on Sefaria. Be careful lest you forget your God and fail to keep the commandments, rules, and laws which I command you this day. When you have eaten your fill and have fine houses, you've built fine houses to live in, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased. Everything you own has prospered. Be careful, lest your heart grow haughty and you forget your God, who freed you from the house of bondage, who led you through the great wilderness. And you say to yourself, Kochi v'otzem yadi asali et hachayil hazeh. My own power and the might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. And nothing could be further from the truth, and that's not how the world works. We are called to be grateful for everything that is around us. The capacity we have to make a difference now is based on the strength those who came before us generated and used to get us into this position. And if we have succeeded because of our own deeds, kol hakavod, we deserve that kind of recognition as well. But we did not get here out of nowhere. And the Torah is telling us, Moshe, our teacher, is telling us just before he dies, that when you eat and you have enough and you feel full, and I'm speaking in the wide sweep of Jewish history, when you feel like you have enough, which doesn't feel especially Jewish to say. I think of scenes like the end of Fiddler on the Roof. We have enough for a little while, and then we don't. That's not the inexorable march of the Jews. In fact, Zionism and the birth of the Jewish homeland, the rebirth of our indigenous home, those were miraculous answers to history. The goal is to have enough. And the question is, what do we do once that becomes real? It is easy, once we have plenty, to become haughty. God forbid. But it is easy to think that only I got me here. No. Now, I'm not sure that we all share the same theology. My beloved brother, Father Kevin Weidinger, is here. He and I have different faiths, but it's the same theology somehow. Haughtiness is the opposite of holiness. And what we are blessed to have, we are called to be responsible with. And that responsibility is a mindset, is a promise. And when our life circumstance changes, and we're no longer scavenging to make sure that our children have enough, what do we do when we see others who still do that, who still must do that? When we have the capacity, the power, to fulfill the promise given to our ancestors. The Torah itself says, Moshe, Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, says, you might one day say to yourself, Kochi v'otzem yadi asali et hachayil hazeh. My own power and the might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. Moshe predicts one day that someone will say this, but in his day, and in the generation before that, and in countless generations before that, and in the 2,000 years of the Jewish people's exile until we returned home in 1948, it would have been impossible to imagine anyone saying, look what we have done for ourselves, as if that's really where we feel, where we live. The worry, that is an indigenous thing too. But one day, Moshe says, you will outgrow that and forget what you've been through. Which is why the Torah tells us 36 times, 36, never oppress a stranger because you know what it was to be strangers in a strange land. One day you might think that this is all yours, and you did this. This Parsha, and we'll explore this more this week, this Torah portion makes very clear that the Promised Land is a conditional inheritance. We must uphold who we are in order to remain worthy of it. That's what this Parsha says. That's what Moshe says. It's not easy to hear, and it can be weaponized, certainly. That's not the point. It is a reminder that we have to know our story and embody those lessons so that we don't fall prey to the very understandable trap that Moshe lays out. When you finally have enough, you might one day say, Kochi v'otzem yadi, my own power and the might of my own hand did this. He says in the next verse, this is verse 18 of chapter 8, remember that it is God who gives you the power to get wealth and fulfillment of the covenant made on oath with your ancestors, as is still the case. Do not forget. Do not forget. Moshe knows what it is to work with our family. He knows what it is to work with the Jewish community, and I'm imagining that this kind of concern is shared beyond the boundaries of any one faith. But we are not a powerless people anymore. What we do with our power matters, and the best way to remind ourselves is to cultivate the gratitude of the opening verse that I shared. Ve'achalta ve'savata uverachta. When you eat, and you've eaten enough to feel satisfied, make that a moment of blessing. This is far from an easy lesson. There is incalculable trauma that it will be lifetimes ahead in which we will work to heal. We have 50 beloved still held hostage. All of this is true at the same time. We need our family whole. I bless us to be able to hold all of these truths at the same time, to fight when we must in ways that we're supposed to bring our family home, and in no way to lose our humanity along the path. Our story helps us remember how complicated that path has been and what our obligations on any one part of it truly are. So take a breath, friends. Let's send our hearts all the way to the east, underground, to our beloveds. We want them home now. Kol hod baleva pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.